hoping real soon I can get a volume cover so I can stop using this back page from, or this color page from chapter 1, because it looks so much nicer when it comes to actually having a cover. And I think I actually figured out a new back cover to put, so I'm gonna start working on the layout for this whole chapter, like my chapter review layout for a next next era of its design. Anyway, going to the chapter, something I just want to say, like, before I need to look into like the experience of this mangaka, because you have panels like this that look really good, just the way that they're kind of laid out, and then you'll have ones where some of the characters look a little clunky, and I feel like it's just that the mangaka isn't as experienced as some of these other guys, so it's one of those ones that I'm hoping does well, because I want to see this artist's art evolve, because I think there's definitely a lot of skill in here. There's just parts where you can tell they probably have to draw parts a lot faster and it shows, versus like a bunch of like some mangaka that can probably do like, oh yeah, easy time, just do it real fast, and then it's still looking pretty good. Just the difference between a veteran and a newer person. They're talking about like the yokai prison islands. There's like, it's like this, obviously it's a big structured place to keep yokai captured for whatever reason. They say like torture and research. Definitely like I think the series is laying out that both there's good yokai and there's bad yokai, but there's also good exorcists and there's bad exorcists. Like if it's like yokai they're bringing in, they're capturing and doing all these like horrible experiments and stuff on, for ones that are like straight evil, sure, but I can guarantee there are good ones that get caught up in there as well. So there's definitely some gray area from this, but they're saying how it was impossible to escape until the double S ranked yokai, the QB, escaped. Very curious to know how that's gonna go, and like what's going to kind of like construct around the story for that, because the last chapter was more just like hey, here's a chapter. It was just a nice little display of the main cast of Kazami and Pyron, showing them just being good people. I had that nice little thing with Milk Boy showing that there are some yokai that are really good. It just people need to see it and understand it. But now we have a double S yokai breaking out of the confinement, and as far as we know, it goes like the highest. It's like S, double S, triple S. So definitely like some there's definitely obviously some dangerous like escalations coming up soon. And we never really saw the full extent of like that last S class. Like he was not fully serious, so I'm wondering like what his full extent is and when we're gonna see like one of these all out. And I mentioned that with the series itself, it was like, well, if the series does well, how are they going to prolong, like how are they going to spread out all the content for like if it was going to do like 100 or 200 chapters or so. I guess you would need to do more than 100, but like 300 chapters is like kind of like the larger ground that I would usually kind of like gauge chapters as, somewhere around like 250 to 300. If they were like, yeah, we're going to do a pretty long series, and obviously some can only go to maybe like 150 or whatever, but I feel like the 300 mark is kind of like the ideal area if they aren't trying to overwork themselves, but they still want to do a pretty lengthy weekly series. But then like I said, there's 25 of these like triple S ranked guys. You can definitely work 25 characters over the course of that long of time if you really wanted to. But after that point, we have Akifuyu, and she's just talking to I guess Abe is her name, because like this guy's calling her, but it's this other guy, one of the four kings, Ginging Shishino, and he's this dude. He's got all these swords. He's got an eye patch, just looking cool. Pretty nice design, to be perfectly honest. I do like his design, and it looks like his little, his character gimmick thing is he refers to people, I would assume of some form of high stature, not just everybody, as samurai, and so like he's just talking about like, what you did wasn't very samurai-like of you. You just so you know, I don't know if I can even use that term for you as is. Dude's interesting so far. I like his perk. I think it's kind of interesting, but like you have this part where like Akifuyu, and he's just like, you're a samurai who lies, and she's like, I'm not a samurai. Listen, you don't understand. He's just continuing doing his thing. Not like advocacy for the yokai spell is not a very samurai like thing to do. And he's like, so at this point you're no longer samurai, and she's just like, I never was. Listen, I got shit to do. I don't have time to mess around with you right here. But at the same time, there's some definite back and forth rivalry between them, you can tell. And that way they're kind of talking, and she's like saying how she thinks that there's some secrets about the yokai spell that aren't being given to them. There's something hiding further along with things, and maybe that once they get there, they're going to be able to kind of like reveal like aspects of like you know, certain things that the whole exorcist groups are hiding. Like I said, there's definitely, I think that the way that's going to be built up is that there are good and bad on both sides, and you just kind of eventually have to kind of like root out each of the problems and really look at it from an individual standpoint rather than just saying all of them on either side. It's not as simple as that. But I like the panel where you're seeing like these two like have a little bit of almost aura clash. Obviously not the same thing, but it's displayed that way. We saw already that Abe, like her, like one of her spells, like was it the Dragon Punch or Dragon? I think it was just Dragon Punch, and you know, that really cool looking Eastern dragon, which I was happy about because generally I don't really like Eastern style dragons, but I really like this one. And the samurai dude has the tiger, so I'm wondering if like is this whole theme going to be like tiger weird style of swordsmanship or something. That'd be pretty badass. I think anyone would like to see something cool like that, especially if there's maybe like an eventual fight to be built up with them. I'm hyped to see that. I guess get some parts, so like you know, Kazami accidentally, like with Pyra bumping into some really popular girl in class, and she's got a ticket to go to this yokai island, but she runs away, and there was some jealousy from Pyra. I'm curious to know how that's gonna go, because there's definitely some form of plot that's gonna be tied to that. I think that's a little bit obvious. And then after that point where they're kind of just conversing, and you get like some parts like Pyra gets mad, picks up like a stone tile and just smacks Kazami over the head with it. You're just getting some of that kind of like aggressive comedic style you know, back and forth between them. Nothing too serious. It's played very silly instead of like it's not played in the same way of like a tsundere where she's just mean and then, you know, leaves the scene or whatever, and some guy's just like, what'd I do, you know, what did I do to get hit or like yelled at or something. It's played more in a silly way, so I do like that. But after that point, these two characters show up, and they're like showing that they also know the yokai spell, and they're going to teach them, like according to Akifuyu's orders. They're saying they're twins. I'm curious to know how this is gonna all play out. So if they have the yokai spell, then what will be like the reveal on like how are they exactly using it? Because you need a yokai and you need somebody to use the yokai spell. But if they're both human, then are they really going to be like are they really going to be kind of laid out to be like the same as him, or is it two people maybe using the yokai spell? Because one thing to note is that their whole like emblem that they have, because we saw one with Kazami and Pyra that theirs is a skull, whereas these guys is like a fox, and who just broke out of prison, who was the QB. So, you know, obviously QB, you know, the nine-tailed fox. There's some secrets here that I'm very curious to know how they're going to play out. And I'm really interested to see what this author has like all kind of set up for this, because now we find out there's more of these yokai spell users out there. Is maybe the main thing will be like people using the yokai spell will be, you know, good guys or bad guys. I think that'll be really cool to see these guys just all use these cool themed weapons from different mythological creatures from Japanese folklore. And I guess if you really wanted to, like within the series, like if it did really well, it doesn't have to just be Japanese kind of style like folklore and exorcism. You could do other countries and do like different ways to incorporate like all these different type of mythological creatures inside of the story, because there's types of exorcists from all different cultures. It just depends on how they're going to get utilized in terms of this story. I'm very curious to know how that's going to go. I very much want to see the series itself play out, because I think that this author has a lot of really good ideas, and I really want to see like what exactly you know, becomes of the series, and just becomes of, you know, everything in Bone Collection. And I think it's got a very strong opening, and I think it's got a high level of possibilities, and the fact that it's already established a good amount early on in such a widespread kind of setup, like I said. Because if it's if the whole thing is like 25 different S to triple S ranked individuals, then obviously that's going to really open up like a very large pool of people to go off of. So it's just going to come down to like how exactly is the author going to utilize this widespread of of characters for this story, and what exactly is their big goal plan. Well, like how exactly is it going to all play out if it gets to play out. So I might have to see like what these characters are going to bring in the next chapter. Like what are these weird little girls, like these twin weird exorcists with the yokai spell, going to reveal that will help Kazami's story and help him in his situation. So looking forward to that, hyped to see where that goes. And like I said, I've been enjoying the series. I'm hoping it doesn't get axed. We're at chapter 10. We got a couple more before it enters in that will it survive and will it won't survive kind of area. So other than that, comment below, thumbs up the video for the like button, subscribe button, and check out my other videos. Further than that, I appreciate everybody's already subscribed, and I thank you all for listening. Bye.